And here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, joining me for another edition of The Haunting, the 2024 edition of it. Friends, coming back, I think it's been about 2 years since you were on. It is Kestrel the Nature Witch. Hey, Kestrel, how are you?
Hey, Adam, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm hanging in there. Now, just to remind people, the last time you were on, basically you came on because I thought you were interesting. I stumbled across your channel on TikTok, tarot cards, and, everything in between. We had a really great conversation about the world of the weird.
We did. I remember that conversation was so much fun.
Now, do you remember not being able to have time for me last year?
I do.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I try and give Kestrel as much crap as I think I can give her, and it's sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit more less. But anyways, no, thank you so much for coming on this year. This is kind of fascinating stuff because this is kind of different territory than what we kind of usually go with The Haunting. It's usually, hey, what's your paranormal group? Where have you been? And, what have you seen? What have you experienced? That sort of thing. For you, this is a little bit different because you're into the world of being a nature witch. And I can't remember, there was a term for it, and I can't remember exactly how you said it the last time. I apologize for that. But
no, that's okay.
You've got a little bit different view of this stuff. Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
When we get into, because it is officially October, when we get into October, what does that kind of mean for someone like you?
It means a number of things. October, fall/autumn really starts kind of mid-September. You start to notice the leaves change.
Yeah.
But what's happening for nature, which, well, honestly, for any kind of witch really, is when we practice with the seasons, this is the season of the harvest. So it's the final harvest from the previous season, summer. You're kind of, in ancient times, older times, we would literally be collecting the last harvest, right?
Okay.
But in modern society, it's kind of, integrating anything you've learned over the last few seasons, taking time to, if you work with herbs, maybe you're collecting those last bit of summer herbs before they go dormant for the winter. And it's also the time period where the veil gets really thin.
And
so this is the time of year for working with spirits and ancestors and things along those lines.
But so by veil, you mean the difference between life and death and in between, right?
Yeah, it's the liminal space. So it's the veil essentially is the barrier between the physical world and the spirit world.
Okay. Is it in different books have kind of handled this stuff and explained it in different ways, but it's kind of going with the seasons and power shifting type stuff, right?
Yes.
And so this is the time of year where it's shifting more towards is it the spirit side of things? Would that be the way to say it?
Yeah, that's definitely a way to say it. It's so the way you kind of put it earlier with life and death.
Okay.
So spring and summer are more life focused.
Okay.
It's when things are blooming, when life is kind of at its peak. And then you get into autumn and winter, which is kind of more the death side of things. It's when, plant life is either dying or going dormant.
Yeah.
A lot of animals will go into hibernation. The land gets quiet.
Okay.
And it goes kind of into a death state. So it's kind of a balance between the two, and autumn is that tipping point from the more life side of it to the more depth side of it.
Kestrel the Nature Witch on the line with me right now. I'll have your information at the bottom of the page, but for anybody that's curious, KestrelTheNatureWitch.com. All right, so this time of year for you, as it has to do with the paranormal, what do you kind of get into? Are you doing things for clients? And that sounds really bad when I say it like that. But what is it kind of like? What is your October kind of like?
Great question. So I tend to, ancestor work is really my biggest one. Doing a lot of work with my dead, as I call it. So it's, of course, direct ancestors, because there's different kinds of ancestors. It's, bloodline ancestors like grandparents, great-grandparents. You can go very far back down the line to anywhere from hundreds to thousands of years.
Wow.
But it's
really?
also, you can go way back. You're likely not going to get names because, one, names are forgotten to time. It just happens that way. And two, often those names are in languages that no longer exist.
Oh, weird.
So even if they tell you the name, you're not going to understand what they're saying to you.
Okay. Okay. Oh, you know what? I've never thought about it like that in that sense. You always think of your ancestors, like 5-6 generations, but it's more than that.
Oh yeah, it goes back thousands and thousands of years, which can be a trip to think about. Is how far back, how many numbers of ancestors had to meet and live in order for you to exist in this moment.
Oh, it gets real big thinking there, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And that can be a really interesting space to kind of lean into this time of year because, again, the veil is thin. And so you're more likely to connect with those ancestors during this time. There is a word of caution here, though.
Okay.
You want to make sure that if you're going to do ancestor work, you're working with well and loving ancestors, because there is such a thing as unwell ancestors. And they can be malicious, but usually it's just they're unwell. Okay. And so it's kind of like with living people. If someone is unwell, they're likely to engage in behaviors that are harmful, not necessarily out of malice, just because they're unwell.
Okay. It kind of sounds like the drowning man thing, where if you are next to a drowning man, they're going to grab you just because that's what a drowning man would do.
That is a very, very good way of describing it. There's different ways that you can engage with ancestors safely. Honestly, not easiest, but the most accessible one is you just tell the unwell ancestors, hey, I need you to step out of my space. It doesn't mean you're forgetting them. It doesn't mean you're exiling them. You're just saying, hey, I need you to step out of my space. You can't come in here and kind of just latch onto me and start doing whatever you feel like, because it can manifest in a lot of harmful ways. It can cause, sickness. But again, please, if you're sick, please do go to a medical professional. Do not ignore that aspect of it, but it can cause things like sickness. It can cause addictions, which again, please seek professional help if that's a thing. But it can manifest in all kinds of ways, nightmares. You want to make sure you're working with a well ancestor.
Is it one of those things like this, especially this time of year, where if there's always that thing of what you put into the universe kind of comes back, that thought. Is it one of those things this time of year of careful what doors you open to? Yeah.
So you do want to be intentional about it. Something like this can get a little tricky because the teacher that I learned from, incredible teacher. He teaches that you're working with the ancestors, whether you're conscious of it or not.
Okay.
What you kind of want to do is, if you're going to open those doors, just be mindful of who you're inviting in through the door. You want to be very specific. I am inviting in my well and loving ancestors, or if you're working with spirits with my highest and greatest good in mind. Okay. No one else is allowed in. You're not going to get possessed or, have the likelihood of something quote unquote demonic coming in is very low. But you still want to be specific because you don't want to invite an unwell ancestor in unintentionally and then have it cause some chaos in your life.
Yeah.
It does do that. That does happen.
As far as I've ever kind of seen, it's careful what you ask for is kind of the mentality of it. And if you're going to ask if you're going to ask a stupid question, be prepared for a stupid answer type thinking.
Yeah. I have a friend who says if you play stupid games, you'll win stupid prizes.
Yeah. No, that's F around and find out.
Yes, exactly.
Kestrel, the Nature Witch, on the line with me right now as we talk about the world of the paranormal and the world of the weird and everything in between. Okay, so is this stuff you're doing mostly for yourself this time of year, or are you doing it for other people?
So when it comes to ancestor work, I mostly do it for myself. Okay. I highly recommend most people do it for themselves. You can ask for assistance if you'd like.
Okay.
But honestly, I have found, this is personal experience, that the ancestors are very receptive if you just talk to them.
Okay.
So many ancestors have been forgotten about for hundreds or thousands of years.
Yeah.
So they're kind of just sitting there waiting for someone to talk to them. It's not like they're literally just sitting around waiting for you to validate their existence. But, if you try to talk to them, they're probably going to be thrilled that you even tried. Again, make sure you specify well and loving, but, building that connection and rapport yourself is going to yield much better results. Now, that being said, if you want some guidance and you want someone to kind of help point you in the right direction, that's a great reason to reach out to someone to kind of guide you through that process. There are a lot of people who do ancestor lineage healing sessions, which is something you might want to consider, because they basically just hold a safe container for you to do that work.
Yeah.
They're not doing it for you, but they are teaching you how to do it safely, which is important. Yeah, so you definitely want to do that. I kind of more so when I'm working with people this time of year, I'm doing kind of like we talked about last time, tarot readings. I can do tarot readings to kind of help you communicate with your ancestors if you would like that. But again, it's important to keep in mind that you're not going to get yes, no answers. You're not going to get, here's a specific ritual that you can do to, that's not how that works.
No, I get you. I get you. Kestrel, the Nature Witch on the line. I do have a quick tarot question for you, because there was something you said the last time that has fascinated me, and it led me to another question.
Oh, I'm here for it. Let's do it.
So last time we talked, when we got into the towards the end, you said something, and something I went, oh, I never thought about it like that. But you were talking about that different tarot decks have different personalities, and you would use a different deck for different people, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it sparked the question. I don't need a tarot reading from you, but I was curious what deck you would use.
Oh, that's a great question. Oh, for you? Oh, okay. So I have a tarot deck. It's actually technically an oracle deck, but it's called Visions in the Liminal Space.
Oh, interesting.
I would use that deck because that deck is a no-nonsense, straight to the point, but also very sarcastic.
Oh, now it makes sense.
Yeah, it likes to be a little punchy sometimes, and be like there's literally a card in there that says you asked for this, and I'm like, cool, thank you for that. That's exactly what I needed in this moment.
That's amazing.
I feel like that would be a good fit because I feel like you could handle the spice level of that oracle deck.
I would appreciate the spice level on something like that. I think.
Yeah.
I don't need the if you come across this sign. No, just tell me. Just don't make me do the song and dance. Let's just get to it. That's awesome. All right, that makes me very happy. I don't know why I thought of that the last time you and I talked, but it's one of those burning questions. Like, I just want to know which deck you'd use, because I think that says a lot. But anyways, all right.
Absolutely.
So we'll talk about the tarot stuff here in a little bit, because that is kind of fascinating for this time of year as well. But as you do get into this time of year, it is the ghosts, goblins, and the paranormal, and sitting around in dark rooms and all this, and talking to spirits and stuff. Where do you kind of sit with this stuff? Do you go investigate? Have you done it? Do you like doing it? Do you think it's silly? Where do you kind of sit with it?
So I have in the past. I haven't in some time, but that's mostly because I'm hypersensitive to spirits and spaces. Because, places hold energy, and spirits too. There's spirits as in ghosts, people. Mm-hmm. But there is also spirits of land, spirits of places. The houses have spirits. So, for example, if you walk into an abandoned house, there's a spirit that lives there. That is the spirit of the house itself. And if it doesn't want you there, you're going to know pretty quickly. So I haven't done it in quite some time, but I used to love doing it. I did have an experience one time, though, that kind of, I was younger when I was doing this, and I wasn't using the proper precautions. I was a little bit cocky, and, I kind of just waltzed into this abandoned house thinking, like, I could do whatever I felt like.
I don't know why, but I just pictured you kicking in a door for some reason.
I didn't quite enter at that level, but I kind of just like throw the door open, like, "Hey, I'm here," and the house, and the house spirit was like, "Absolutely not."
So
I very quickly learned, as you said before, I effed around and I really found out. So now I approach places and spirits with much more respect.
Do people ask you to go do this stuff at all? Like, if someone said, "Hey, we're going to go take a look at this place," would you be inclined to do it? Like, is there a curiosity there, or is it, I don't know about this.
I would be inclined to do it depending on the history of the place. There are certain places that I avoid for my own personal safety. Places such as, for example, a space where a lot of harm took place.
Okay.
I might avoid that. Just because, again, the level of sensitivity I have. I also have, spirits like to talk to me, and sometimes I don't have the emotional bandwidth, which might sound a little harsh, but I'm not going to be able to offer help to those spirits.
Yeah.
And so I just feel like it's better to just avoid this situation than to have to try to rectify it later. But, abandoned houses, I'm pretty down for. Old buildings. I love old ruins. Okay. Ruins are my jam. I'm totally into that. Would love to go do that. It's just, if it's a place where a lot of harm has taken place, I might not be as inclined to join.
No, I get that. And the feeling of a place is always kind of interesting to me, because I don't think by any stretch of the imagination I'm overly sensitive, but you do get and we talk about it in some of the groups I'll go out with, is the house is empty. Like, there's a difference between when people are home in a house and when they're not home at a house or a location or whatever, and you get that feeling of, well, the house is empty right now.
Yeah.
So, no, I get that. Kestrel and Nature Witch on the line with me right now. What do you think of, these folks that do go around and do these sorts of investigations and stuff? Or is it because you have a little bit different view of this from other people? Some people are, I don't want to say are more like me, but where it's like I have, no connection to, being a nature witch or whatever. I'm going to go and try and find ghosts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What do you see?
They go to F around and find out.
Yeah. What, like, from your view, what is that kind of like for these? Are they doing it right? Are they doing it wrong? What do you think? And and again, I did not do a very good job of asking that question.
No, I know what you mean. It depends, I have seen paranormal investigation groups that approach with respect.
Yeah.
They come to the home, they say, "Hey, we'd just love to talk to you. We'd like to hear your story." And I think that's great, because that gives the spirits in the space an opportunity to kind of be heard, and supported. And that's something that, is important for spirits too. Where I kind of have an issue with it is when people approach it with the intention of, I'm going to get likes and clicks. And so they come in and they're they are disrespectful. They're like, "I'm in your space. What are you going to do about it?" I'm like, "Oh, you're going to find out what you're going to do about it. And you're going to have a lot of fun with that, I'm sure." That's where I kind of take issue with it, because it's the same with land. For example, a cemetery. A lot of people don't think of this, but when you approach a cemetery, there's a land spirit guardian of the cemetery. And if you just walk up in there being disrespectful, you're going to have an experience you're probably not going to be too happy about. Cemeteries are sacred spaces.
There is a great scene. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Dresden Files.
I've heard of it, but I've not seen it.
Think Harry Potter for adults.
Ooh, I need to watch that.
It's a great book series. The TV show, not great. I will tell you this right now. But
okay, so I'll read the book.
read the book, but they talk about essentially the same thing. I forget, it's like genus loci or something, I think they call it.
Mm-hmm.
And he anyways, there's a scary island. He goes, "I punched it in the face and now we're friends."
Oh my gosh.
But I think it's interesting when people mix this stuff into stories like that. You can kind of learn from it. But no, I completely agree on the I was just talking to a different interview a little bit ago, and the idea of investigators don't always admit that they're doing this to become famous.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, if you're out there to be curious and whatnot, I've got no issue with that. And here's the other part of it. If you are out there to try and become famous or do whatever, it's like, at least admit to it.
Yeah.
Be
honest.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I get it. Oh no, we're here to help. No, you're not. You're here to get clicks. Be honest.
Yeah. And the thing is, you can try to lie to spirits. They will know.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you come in and you're like, I'm here to help, and you're actually here to just try to get internet famous, the spirits are going to know that.
Have you?
It's not it's not like humans, where like it's harder to tell. They know.
Spirits don't have HR like we do.
No, they don't.
Have you come across, like, when you're out and about, whether it's, have you come across some of these spirits? Like, has there been hostile ones? Have there been ones that it's like, you know what, not going in that building, or, or not going into, that place? Like, is there a place that sticks out to you like that?
Yeah. There's been a few cemeteries like that.
Okay.
That is usually, though, as you're approaching the cemetery, because I'll be honest, like I try to visit cemeteries just to, visit the dead, not necessarily a cemetery that an ancestor is in.
Yeah.
But sometimes you'll approach the cemetery and the guardian of the cemetery will be like, you do not want to come in here.
Really?
Yeah. They'll be like, turn around and leave. You do not want to come in here. And I'm like, okay, duly noted. Thank you so much. And I turn around and walk away. But there's also just...
Who's that person speaking to? I don't know.
Yeah. They're like, who are you talking to? Just don't worry about it.
I'm fine.
I'm fine. But there's, places too, sometimes you'll come across buildings that have been repurposed.
Okay.
So, for example, in my hometown, there was a former asylum for the mentally ill that they tried to repurpose into a community college space.
Oh, boy.
It did not. It's gone now. They've torn it down since. But that building, I only went near the building. I didn't even go in it. I went near the building when I was a teenager, and I was like, absolutely not. You know it, and most people will know it. You don't even have to be overly sensitive. You'll approach a space with hostile spirits, and you'll get a sinking feeling.
Yeah.
And your heart rate will start to increase, and you'll feel uncomfortable, and you'll be like, I don't understand why I feel uncomfortable. If that happens, turn around and leave. Do not push it. Turn around and leave.
That's always good advice for anything, though. Turn around and leave.
Turn around and leave. Like, if it's not the vibe for you, just don't. Don't.
Again, I'm not claiming to be anywhere near sensitive in anything, but I think people miss out on like feeling the vibe of a room.
Yeah.
Or the vibe of a place or whatever. And with my son, Jace, I always say you need to learn how to read a room before you do anything, because he's not always the best at, I should joke around right now, or I should talk about Monster Jam or what have you. But I mean, in this context, it is that you need to be able to read the room, or at least feel the room and be like, you know what, this probably isn't a good place for me.
Yeah, because you can feel that with people too, right? Like if a certain person walks into a space and suddenly the vibe shifts and it feels uncomfortable, that's probably not a person you want to interact with.
Energy vampires.
Yes, they are a very real thing.
Yeah, believe me, I'm not saying I know a few, but guess what? They will remain nameless. Kestrel the Nature Witch on the line with me. You can find out all about her at kestrelthenaturewitch.com. I will have links, and you've got the social media stuff and all there. Are people still able to reach out to you for tarot stuff?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have a little page on my website where people can check that out if it calls to them.
This time of year with that sort of thing, is it like hooking an amp up to it and it's just a lot easier, a lot harder? What when you start doing the tarot stuff this time of year, what's it like?
It's kind of like, the way I would describe it is, it's kind of like drinking from a fire hose.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of information that comes in. I've gotten pretty good at being able to pick out the important pieces and convey them. It's just because, again, the veil is so thin. Oftentimes there's a lot more information that comes through. So it's just kind of filtering it before sharing it.
Yeah. Side question real quick. Can you, for you, do you feel the veil thinning at some point? Like, is it a noticeable difference? Okay.
Yes, it's a very noticeable shift. This year it happened actually around the second week of September. It's almost like I very much feel it, and I will reach out to my other friends who are practitioners and be like, hey, is it happening for you? And they're like, yeah, it is. It's
No, it's
almost
not,
like
Kestrel.
a shift internally.
I don't know what's going on with
No,
you.
it's not. To be like, what do you mean?
Okay,
No,
weirdo.
yeah. It's an internal shift
Oh,
that you feel happening.
that's really interesting because, again,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know much about the world of being a nature witch or a witch. You know, and like I said, I'm not overly sensitive, but it is one of those things you think about it, and it's like, oh man, I wonder what that would be like.
Yeah,
So,
it's a
are you comfortable this time of year?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I used to not be. When I was younger. It was really difficult. I used to loathe autumn and winter. Just because
How dare you?
one, yeah, right. It was my sensitivity, and I didn't know how to handle it as a teenager. It got overwhelming, and so I used to hate it because I didn't know what to do with it. But now autumn is my absolute favorite time of year. I look forward to it every single year because I've learned how to work with that. And
Okay.
also, as a nature witch, I work with the seasons instead of against them.
Okay.
So I understand that this time of year is for integration and for preparing for winter and doing spirit communication instead of trying to constantly live in a perpetual summer, which is productivity and making things happen. And, I kind of allow myself to slow down a little bit, and that makes space for all that spirit communication to happen and to actually listen to what's occurring around me instead of resisting it,
Real quick, go back, and we probably should have done this at the beginning to kind of set people up for this, but what exactly is a nature witch?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a nature witch is, honestly, most witches could consider themselves a nature witch.
Okay.
Depending on their practice. A nature witch is a witch who works with the seasons and the natural world heavily. So my entire practice is grounded in the rhythms of nature. I do a lot of work with plants and animals, especially trees and birds. Those are kind of my two really main spirit allies.
Okay.
But I work with all kinds of different plants, all kinds of different animals. You can also work with the elements, the sun and the moon, but it's very earth-based.
Okay.
So a lot of my rituals and my practices are based in working with natural elements.
A couple questions popped in my head. I wonder what it would be like on an alien planet to do this stuff.
Oh.
Like, would it be the same?
That would be so fun.
Would it be like what would being a nature witch be like on Sinclair Alpha 2 or, what have you? And I totally made that up. So if anybody's like, there's no such thing, I made it up. But I mean, I don't know why I just thought of that, but that would be kind of interesting. What would a nature witch be like on a different planet?
Oh, that would be so fascinating. That would be really fun to play around with.
My other question.
Oh, that's such a cool idea.
No, go. You know what? If you learn anything about it or figure it out, let me know because I'd be really interested to hear. My other question. Yeah. When you speak about animals, I remember the movie Constantine, and we were talking about how this stuff gets mixed in sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Are cats really half in, half out?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
I have a cat. His name is Lord Forest.
That's a great name.
He is absolutely the lord of the house. I love him so much, but he is constantly looking at things that I can't see with my eyes. He lets me know if a spirit is in the house.
Really?
Very quickly. Oh, yeah. He will alert me, especially if it's a spirit he doesn't like. He will absolutely let me know that they're there. He's like, nope, not this one. And I believe him. If he says that, I'm like, okay, you got to go. Can't be here.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, but he's absolutely half in, half out.
Does your cat have an accent? Does he speak back?
Accent?
We have a joke in our house.
Does he speak with an accent? He has like a thick German accent.
Yes, that's what it was. Did we talk about this the last time? I feel like I may have said it.
I don't remember. We may have.
Because we've got two cats, and it started out very German Spanish was the accent. Hello, Faja.
Hello, Faja. I think Forrest, honestly, if he had an accent, it would be old Germanic Norse.
Well, when you have Lord in your name, you kind of have to be You have to sound official.
Yeah.
Right?
He definitely has an official accent.
Like speaks in very broad terms of like a step above the commoner.
Yes.
The peasants. Exactly. Why is it cats that are half in, half out, you think?
That's a great question.
I mean, it goes, you look back at like Egypt and, it was a big deal for them. I mean, what is it about a cat that is so different or so attuned to that stuff?
Yeah, there's a lot of different theories around that. Some people believe cats are actually aliens or Arcturians that have come here.
A what?
Which, yeah, an Arcturian, it's a type of, I don't know if they're considered aliens. This is getting a little bit outside my wheelhouse, but
this is where the line is for you?
Yeah, right? I know there's different ethereal beings that some witches and spiritual practitioners work with. There's Arcturians, there's Syrians. They're all different star systems and planets. And I have heard the theory that cats are actually Arcturians that have come here to work with us as humans, but they take a cat form when they come here.
That, you know what, it wouldn't surprise me. It really wouldn't.
I mean, I honestly would not be shocked either, just because cats are also, they have a special wisdom about them that's hard to describe or put your finger on.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's a good way to say it, because they do things that just, I don't want to say don't make sense, but if you've ever owned a cat, you know exactly what we're talking about, I think.
Yes. So hard to put into words.
Oh man, that's really, we could do a whole episode on cats.
That would be incredibly fun, and I would so be down for that.
Let's just talk about cats for an hour. Kestrel, the Nature Witch, on the line with me. Going more, back towards, what we were talking about earlier. When you talk about, buildings and houses and homes and, all of this having an energy to them. When someone's working with, let's say someone thinks their house is haunted, or for this conversation, they know it's haunted. Something's going on. Maybe not necessarily, evil by any stretch, but, it's like, come on. When you look at this stuff and, from, I don't even know if it'd be the Book of the Nature Witch or what, but how do you approach that? I don't know. I don't know much about it, so I don't always know how to ask the question properly, if that makes sense.
No, that's actually a great question. So it depends. One thing I would advise is if you are looking to purchase a home and a house is heavily haunted with aggressive, not so great spirits, please don't buy it. Please don't buy it. You're not going to be able to eject those spirits from the house. Just don't do it. Just don't put yourself in that position, please. I know the house is beautiful, but if you're sharing a bedroom with a, malicious spirit, it's not worth it. That being said, oftentimes, at least from my personal experience, there's a couple different kinds of, like, quote-unquote hauntings that I've experienced. One of them was the former. I lived in a home that was previously haunted by a very not nice spirit, and I moved out because even as a witch, it was above my quote-unquote pay grade. Sometimes these spirits are super ingrained. The house was from the 1800s. The spirit had been there a long time, and there was no way I was kicking him out. So I was like, you know what? I will see myself out. That's fine.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, if there's a haunting and it's not malicious, they're kind of just, making sounds. Maybe they're moving doors occasionally. It can be unsettling, but usually it's harmless, and they just want to be acknowledged.
Okay.
So it could be, a person who used to live in the house and maybe passed in the home. Oftentimes for me, it's land spirits.
Okay.
Either the spirit of the house itself or the spirit of the land the house is built on.
Okay.
And so there's a couple things you can do to work with them. You can give them an offering. Ask them what they want. Sometimes it's flowers. Just, buy a bouquet of flowers and put it on the counter and we're good. Sometimes it's coffee. Sometimes they want you to move a piece of furniture. They're like, I hate where you put the couch. Please move it. And it's like, okay, cool, I can do that.
I want to see a spirit have that conversation with my wife. Because you would.
That would probably be so fun.
We just bought a new house earlier this year, and you wouldn't believe the trouble I got into for putting a lamp in the wrong place. So.
Oh no. It's a thing, but it's also a thing with spirits, you
Yeah.
know, like sometimes they just don't like where you put things, or you can negotiate with them too, though. If you're like, hey, listen, I can't move the whole couch just because of the space,
Yeah.
but maybe I can, you know, do you want a certain color pillow on the couch? Like I could probably do that. And usually they're like, okay, fine, that works. Like I want a forest green pillow. And you're like, okay, cool. Like we can do that. Often they just want to be acknowledged and included.
I just want to be sitting at the table talking and my wife to come down. What are you doing? Negotiating.
I'm negotiating with the house spirit.
Well, you know what? It leads me down this, you know, like we kind of stumbled our way into a new construction earlier this year. And you know, there's that difference between a house being a house and a home. And I am a firm believer in you kind of put the energy into the place, and that's what kind of makes it a home, right?
Yes.
For something like this, it's like such a blank slate. No one's ever lived there before. You know, as far as I can tell, it's always been farmland before this. You know, and before it was farmland, I don't know what it might have been, but I guess when you go into that, I mean, is it proper to, you know, maybe the spirit of the land or whatever, be like, hey, we're moving in, thanks. Is that crazy or
not at all? That would probably serve you well to do that. To be like, hey, we're moving into this home. We would like to have a good relationship with you. You know, maybe when you get there, you give the land a small offering. That can be water, especially if it was farmland and it's been over farmed by chance.
Wow.
That does happen. You can just offer water and be like, hey, we want to take good care of the land here.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting us live here. And that goes a long way.
Because there is kind of that feeling of it, like the house we had before when we moved in, it was built in the 70s. So it had kind of a personality to it. It had not like, well, I saw some stuff. My wife thinks I'm nuts, but the house had a feeling to it, you know?
Yeah.
So no,
that's spirit already.
That's really interesting. I talk to our house a lot. I will say that. So
that's good. That's good. You're building a relationship with the house spirit, and that's going to work out in your favor. Because I think, like, it's kind of like, again, kind of circling back to cats. You know, people are like, "Oh, cats can't understand you." Yes, they can.
Oh yeah.
And so can your house. So if you're talking to your house all the time, that house spirit is gonna know, and it's not gonna be thrilled with you. You know,
it's such an interesting conversation to have. It really is about this stuff, because you start going down the kind of the rabbit hole of, oh man, maybe I should have, when we moved in, said something a little bit more than just, hey, I'm sorry, I ran that shelf into the wall already, type thing, which I did. I did, and our youngest son put a hole in the door the first day, so you know it was a good start.
Oofta. I mean, honestly, though, as you're leaving, you can do the same thing.
Yeah.
This is something that people don't often do, too, is just thank your house for letting you live there and keeping you, you know, sheltered while you were there.
Kestrel,
that can go a long way.
I cried when we left our old house.
I don't blame you. It makes sense.
And my
you
son
build a
made
relationship with the home.
You know what, though? I get attached to things. Like, I get attached to chairs.
I mean, I do too.
I'm a weirdo. What do you want?
I'm in the same boat as you. I'm the same as you.
And the 9-year-old made fun of you. What are you crying about? Like, this is where you were born.
That house held a lot of memories.
Yes, it most certainly did. We got to stop psychoanalyzing me.
I'm sorry.
Kestrel, the Nature Witch, on the line with me right now. We'll have her website at the bottom of the page. But you know what? If there's somebody out there that is getting into this stuff or is interested in, you know, do you just say witchcraft, or is it, you know, being a nature? If they're getting interested in it, what's the proper term, I guess, is my question.
There actually isn't really a proper term. Practitioner is a good way to describe it. You know, you could call yourself a practitioner of the craft.
Okay. If someone's interested in it, is there advice? Is there do's, do nots, you know, when first getting into it? What's kind of your thought there?
Yeah, start small.
Okay.
Start small. Especially if you want to do a nature-based craft, get to know the plants in your yard.
Okay.
and the birds in your area, the trees in your area. Just start talking to the plants and the plant spirits, the animal spirits in your area.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be, big, grand, crazy, exotic plants. The most powerful plant allies and animal allies that I have built relationships with are my local ones, because I'm around them all the time. So yeah, start small. See, you could start with literally the quote unquote weeds. I don't particularly like that term, but most people know them that way.
Foxtail.
In your yard. Yeah.
It's killing me.
Ooh,
right now.
you allergies?
No, well, allergies, yeah. I mean, I live in Iowa. We're nothing but allergies most of the year, but we just our yard is just covered with this foxtail stuff, and it will not go away. We've had conversations that involve me swearing at it.
Yeah.
Nature which I am not.
Nature which I am not.
So.
Oh yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
That,
is there something a person shouldn't do, especially this time of year? Whether it's like they know what they're doing or not knowing what they're doing, is it just kind of a tread lightly type thing?
Just be respectful.
Okay.
Respect goes a long way. What I would advise you not to do is to come into a space of any kind and just, for lack of a better term, try to act like Mr. Tough Guy.
Okay.
That's going to land you in a pretty bad spot. Don't think you know everything. No one ever knows everything. I've been practicing for a very long time. I still learn new things all the time. I still get smacked around by spirits a little bit sometimes, We're always learning.
Okay.
So just approach with respect and you'll be fine.
Couple final questions for you real quick, okay?
Yeah, let's do it.
Are we watching Agatha?
Ooh, I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence.
All right.
I did like Agatha as a character in WandaVision.
Okay.
But I'm we'll see. I'll get back to you on that.
Okay. All right. I just, it popped in my head because there's a new episode out tonight. But my other question is, since you're into fall now, Halloween, favorite ghost story, favorite movie, what's kind of your fright for this time of year?
Ooh, that's a great question too. So I'm going to be honest, I'm not much of a TV movie person, but.
Well, this interview's. I'm kidding.
I'm going to go classic. Nightmare Before Christmas is always a good one. I know it's not technically a horror film, but it's, a classic feel-good Halloween / Christmas movie. If you're
we're a big Nightmare Before Christmas house. I will tell you that right now. My son was Jack Skellington a couple years ago.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he would
I love that.
He would do the thing. He would reenact the opening where he would come up out of the ooze, and do the arm thing.
Oh yes.
So
big grand sweep.
So all right, cool.
I love that.
All right, one other question. What was your favorite Halloween costume growing up?
Oh wow. Honestly, I'm sure this is going to be shocking. I was a witch one year.
Oh wow. Like pointy hat witch or like ugly witch? What were we doing here?
It was definitely pointy hat witch.
Okay.
But, we did not do the whole crooked, ugly nose thing.
Okay.
Not a huge fan of that imagery. But, it was kind of, yes, there was the pointy hat, but it was more so just the embodiment of the character that I think I enjoyed. And obviously that had an impact.
Hey, I just thought of something. When you first started doing the nature witch stuff and the craft and all this, how did people react to you? Like friends, family, were they like, what's that?
At first I didn't tell people.
Really?
I just did it on my own for a couple of years and then, slowly started kind of expanding out to let people know. And I've actually had most people respond really well.
That's cool.
Which has been a blessing because I know a lot of people don't get that. I think, though, my family especially knows I'm just a weird person. And so they probably were just like, yeah, that makes sense.
Oh,
that makes sense.
That's amazing. No, that's not. It's a very interesting world. Again, I don't know a ton about it. I like reading about it, but I don't have that knowledge base. We've got a friend that is into it, and I can't remember what exactly her flavor is, but like they had a Halloween wedding because of it. So
Oh, that must have been amazing.
there's a lot. They throw a hell of a Halloween party every year.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
But Kestrel, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. It's always a great time talking to you, especially about this stuff. It really was a blast. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I love doing this with you. Please invite me back. I would love to do this again.
I will do that. Kestrel the Nature Witch. We'll have all her details at the bottom of the page. You have a very happy Halloween.
Thank you. You too.